Car makers don't like to take risks, like Porsche with the shape of the 911. It hasn't changed since the 60s really, has it? But there have been a few times when manufacturers went a bit rogue. They took some brave pills and built a car that no one saw coming. Some of these were huge successes and others were total flops. And a few of them were so futuristic that they still feel modern now. So here's my pick of the cars that were way ahead of their time.
Buying a new car? Then head to CarWow and my team will help you find your next car at a fair price. CarWow, your one-stop car buying comparison site.
If you imagine an Aston Martin, you're probably thinking of a coupe with gorgeous curves, right? You know, like a DB11 or a Vantage. Well, how about this weird-looking four-door wedge? It's the 1976 Aston Martin Lagonda, and with that design, it must have looked like it fell off the space station. But its crazy angular looks aren't the only reason it was ahead of its time. It got a huge digital instrument display inside, just like some of the huge touchscreens you get today, only without the touch bit, obviously. This tech never really worked properly though, surprise, surprise. And it was so new and expensive that Aston blew the budget when they were developing it. And not only by a couple of grand either. The whole Lagonda project went over budget by 400%. You're not going to be able to cover that overspend by finding some money down the back of your couch now, are you? Building electric cars is a tough business. Just ask Elon Musk, though he does do it rather well. General Motors had a stab at it way before Tesla when they made the EV1 in 1996. It had 140 horsepower and it could do 100 miles between charges, which isn't too far off some of the electric cars of today, like the Mini Electric and the Honda E. Unlike these cars though, the EV1 was super aerodynamic and had plastic body panels to reduce weight. It even had keyless ignition and air conditioning you could program to come on at the same time every day, just like in a brand new Tesla. But General Motors decided to repossess every EV1 in the late 90s, and it had most of them crushed. Why did they do that? Well, there are actually plenty of conspiracy theories out there about it, but I guess we'll never really know the truth. But what do you think happened? Let me know in the comments below. I'll read them, because I'm interested. I love the Audi A2, and I'm actually thinking about buying one, but I'm put off slightly because whenever I point them out to my girlfriend, she goes, ugh, it's horrible. Now, part of the reason is because it looks a bit like a bar of soap on wheels. But its weird shape means that it's mega roomy inside. In fact, it's made almost completely out of aluminium as well, so it should never rust. And it comes in at just 830 kilograms, which is really quite light. This means that it's actually quite efficient, especially the diesel models. There's one version of the A2 which can do more than 90 miles per gallon. The problem the car faced when it was on sale was the fact that being built out of aluminium meant it was mega expensive to make. And Audi just couldn't build the A2 on a regular production line. It had to have its own special production line, and its weird looks meant it was never a big sales success. It's a shame really, because I think it's a brilliant car. Should I get one? Should I? Do I need yet another car? Once again, let me know in the comments below. I'm gonna have too many cars soon at this rate. Do you remember the Rover Streetwise? Maybe your grandmother had one. I remember when I worked on Auto Express magazine, we had one as a long-termer. No one really wanted to run it. It was actually a car that was pretty ahead of its time if you think about it. No one back then really had a thought of building a chunky off-roady hatchback when it first came out in 2003. So its unpainted bumpers and jacked up suspension looked a bit weird back then, but it actually inspired a whole bunch of brand new cars that follow the same pattern. Think about it. The Audi A1 City Carver, the Ford Fiesta Active, the Ford Focus Active, the Kia Exceed, and the Honda Jazz Crossstar. There's loads of them nowadays. All that from Rover that was going bust at the time. I mean, who'd have thought it? Obviously, none of the cars I've mentioned are any good for off-roading, so if you want to see some proper off-roading, click on the pop-out banner up there to watch me test an AMG G63, a Jeep Wrangler, and a Suzuki Jimny across a proper off-road muddy course. Even if you're not American, you're probably well aware of what a Pontiac Aztek is. It's the car that Walter White drove in the series Breaking Bad. But this SUV from 2000 was a complete sales disaster, and it's easy to see why really. I mean, look at it. Ugh. It's as though Pontiac couldn't decide whether to put the headlights on the bonnet or on the bumper, so they just did both. It reminds me of some kind of demented Pokemon actually. But the Aztek was actually way ahead of its time. It was one of the first coupe SUVs ever made. Now if you don't believe me, check it out from the side. It really reminds me of a BMW X6. It was also full of lifestyle-y features. just like modern SUVs. You could fold the back seats down and shove in a blow-up mattress. I'm not sure what you'd be using that for. And you could get it with a built-in tent. Brilliant. It seems like everybody is building fast SUVs these days. There's the Bentley Bentayga, the Porsche Cayenne, the Aston Martin DBX, and the Lamborghini Urus. But the Urus isn't Lamborghini's first SUV. Oh no. Lamborghini was way ahead of the curve because it built a super fast off-roader back in 1986, way before anyone else gave it a shot. It was called the LMOO2. Or should that be LM002? Or is it LMOO2 or LM002 or just LM2? The name's a bit forgettable and nowhere near as cool as Countach or Diablo or Huracan or Aventador, is it? But you'll never forget what it looks like. It's basically an armoured warehouse on wheels, and it was powered by a 5.2 litre V12 from the Countach. I think I said Countach wrong before. I said Countach. That's because I'm from the Midlands. We don't know how to pronounce car names properly, I'm sorry. If that wasn't enough for you, Lamborghini could even fit it with one of its 7.2 litre V12 powerboat engines instead. No wonder some people called it the Rambo Lambo. Click on the pop-out banner up there to watch me drag race a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ against a Porsche 911 Turbo S. You've probably never heard of the Tucker Torpedo. No, not a trucker torpedo, that's something else. The Tucker Torpedo was a super advanced luxury car from back in the 1940s. Its official name was the Tucker 48, and it was packed with the kind of safety technology that wouldn't appear in other cars for years. It had a roll bar that went all the way around the car to protect you, and the steering mechanism was behind the front wheels so it didn't move backwards and impale you in a crash. The windscreen was made out of shatterproof glass and the dashboard was padded to protect your head, a bit like a really basic airbag. It never went into mass production though, so only 51 cars were ever made. Porsche has built plenty of game-changing cars over the years. The new 911 Turbo S is a great example. It's so fast, it feels like it defies the laws of physics. Also, there's the 918 Spider, which is one of the fastest hypercars ever. But you can trace both of these cars back to the epic 959 from 1986. This was the first four-wheel drive supercar, and it could automatically send power to whichever wheels had the most grip. It was also one of the first ever cars to have sequential turbos to reduce lag, and it had Kevlar body panels like a Formula 1 car. Its suspension would even automatically change the car's ride height depending what speed you were doing. And all this was back in 1986 when mobile phones looked like house bricks and could only make calls. The 959 is just incredible. Now, if you want to, click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen to watch me race a 911 Turbo S Cabriolet against a Turbo S Coupe and a GT3. DS may well be a new French brand, but it comes from Citroen DS, the first of which came out back in 1955. And back in the day, this car not only looked way ahead of its time, it was mechanically ahead of its time as well. It had so many cool features. The best was its clever hydro-pneumatic suspension. This meant it could keep itself level over rubbish roads covered in potholes. Citroen also used these hydraulics to power the steering, the brakes, the clutch, and the gearbox. You barely had to do anything yourself, really. This meant it was super easy and very relaxing to drive. Even today, it's still one of the most comfortable cars I've ever driven. It's up there with the Rolls-Royce Phantom. Interestingly, Rolls-Royce actually used the Citroen suspension in some of its cars. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Also, let me know of other videos you'd like to see in the comments below. If you click over there, you can watch some more videos. And if you click on that box there, you can sign up to the CarWow newsletter and we'll keep you updated on all the latest and greatest new car news. So you're fully informed of what's going on in the world of motoring when we're not uploading these videos. Sign up, totally free.